Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our first Engage event of the year. We start later than usual this time around, but on a very beautiful evening. So thank you very much again for prioritizing Engage events rather than being outside. We won't keep you too long, but we have an exciting panel of local businesses from all walks of life who will introduce themselves in a minute. It's really great to see that people in different industries take being green, being sustainable seriously, and we'll hear about why and what exactly they're doing. So today we will first hear introductions, and then I have a short list of questions for our wonderful guests, which I will ask, and this hopefully will spark some conversation and debate. But I do encourage everyone to use the chat as much as possible to share your comments, to share your views, and indeed to ask questions. And I will be very happy to ask these questions on your behalf in the second part of our evening when we open the floor up to the questions from the participants. So please do use the chat. Do introduce yourselves there, where you live, what you do, what you think on our topic tonight, what you think on what our guests have to share. And Jonathan will be monitoring it, and I'll try to do that as well. But of course, my main priority will be to ensure that our conversation flows live. So, without further ado, may I ask our guests to introduce themselves, and I will do it in no particular order, but just how I see them on my screen. So it doesn't mean that I prioritize any one of them. It's just that I see Derek Hettenbach first. And Derek, could you just spend 2 or 3 minutes introducing yourself and what you do?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Derek Hettenbach. I've been in renewable energies now for about 12 years. And at the moment, I'm working with commercial solar installers to design, fund and install commercial, new build and new development solar projects. I also work with pure air technology that removes and kills viruses from the air that we breathe. So I'm the techie end of things. With the government's recent introduction of the tax breaks, the 130% super tax break and the 50% first year break, for commercial, it's a particularly good time for them to consider a renewable energy future.
Super, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sure there will be plenty of questions for you later on. And Claire and Nicola are next on my screen, please. Do it yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Claire and this is Nicola. We have a very small Leamington-based business called Reusable, and our main purpose is to make it easy and enjoyable for people to make that transition away from single-use plastic in their lives into using reusables.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, and then Alex Daniels.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Alex. I co-run or found another Leamington-based business called Core, and we are a refill shop or zero waste shop or grocery store. Yeah, many terms really. We've been going for about 3 years. We started at market stalls in Warwick originally with just a selection of sort of grains, beans, nuts, seeds, dried fruits, herbs, and yeah, the idea is refill. So we buy the majority of stuff in large sort of 25 kilo sacks, paper, and you can bring your own container. So I mean, the idea is reducing packaging, but then also we do all organic too. So it's kind of partly about how things get to people, and then partly about how they're grown, and partly where they're from, and all of those things together. So yeah, we're a shop in Leamington now. Expanded to doing fresh produce too. So again, organic, as local as possible, as much UK as possible. Again, just try to offer things as sustainably as possible. It was because we, myself and my business partner Beth, wanted a place where we could get things in a way that didn't involve tons of plastic packaging, or a choice between choosing the organic thing in plastic or the loose thing not in plastic, or any of those choices. So yeah, that's us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. All right, and next on my screen is Avnash. You can unmute yourself.
Hi everyone. I know some of you guys recognise the faces and names. Good to see you all again. You all look healthy as well. For those who don't know me, I'm Avnash. I'm Leamington and Warwick based. I work for the family, so we're a family-run business. Been going since 1982. There's 3 sides to the business. We do a lot of high-end new builds, so 30, 40 flat developments, build 20 houses, things like that. We're the first company in Leamington to manufacture windows, so we're still doing that. And the third side is renewable, so we do a bit like Derek, we do air source heat pumps and solar panels, but we do more domestic than commercial on that side. So that's about it from me.
All right, thank you very much. And last but not least is Charlie.
Hello everyone. I may be in a way the odd one out in this group, in that my business is not specifically environmentally focused. I'm a videographer and a photographer, trying to be as green as I can, struggling at times, particularly because technology can have a very high environmental impact when you buy new tech, whether it's a new camera or a new computer. But I've not always been doing this. I was a wildlife conservationist for 12 years in the UK and South Africa. I worked in a local authority doing environmental education for 7 years, trying to get community groups and businesses and the council to talk together with a common purpose, which is very difficult when everyone just wants to have a go at the council. I'm sure lots of people have experienced that. And a background in environmental education and environmental science. So lots of experience environmentally, but still struggling to find answers sometimes about the best way to proceed to reduce the business's environmental impact, to reduce personal environmental impact, whether things like offsetting are purely greenwash, or whether they can be a good thing. And I'm looking forward to hearing lots of ideas from everyone.
Thank you everyone. Super. And so yes, we have quite an array of businesses here, and we have businesses which have been there for a while, like Avnash's family business, to younger businesses. So I just wondered whether you could share a little bit what inspired you to get into business in the first place. So we are not talking about green so far, but just generally, why would you want to be a business person? Again, who would like to start?
I can start with that.
Okay.
I probably did it, and at the time it was the worst thing I ever did. So I did my apprenticeship and I was working around the world for 10 years at GC, and my mum and dad had never been on a holiday. So I thought I'd join the family business to try and help the family out. So my dad could put the business aside and go on holiday and stuff. I think I've regretted it ever since. But there is a positive side. The business has grown, it's become more efficient, and we both go on holidays now. So he takes it, when he's back I go, and we've kind of changed the direction of the business, so it has been positive.
Great, fantastic, thank you.
Shall we go next?
Yeah, Nicola, yeah.
So for us, it was really a combination of circumstance and this sudden realization about the plastics crisis. You know, at a time, Nicola and I were both made redundant from our other jobs. So I guess when something like that happens, it pushes you to make choices that you wouldn't otherwise have made. And just around that same time, we became, like I say, more aware of the plastics crisis and the impact that some of our day-to-day things, like the infamous coffee cup, sort of took over our lives, as we felt we really wanted to do something to raise awareness of the issues and to make it easy for people to make those changes. I mean, given the fact that you're all here tonight, I can almost guarantee that you're probably living life more sustainably and greener across the board than we are. We were very much, you know, shocked and new to this area when we started the business. And that's what really prompted us to do it, was to try and encourage, you know, a wide spectrum of people to be able to make more sustainable choices and to work with other local businesses. We work with independent coffee shops to help them have an offering there at the point of purchase that people can think about it and make those changes. So it was, yeah, circumstance and sudden realisation as to what was going on.
A personal kind of side as well, Claire and I, we've known each other since first day of primary school, since we were 5 years old. When we both studied, we studied at the same university, and it was really quite forward thinking at the time. It had an entrepreneurial school, and we both took an entrepreneurial elective 1 year, and I think that kind of sowed a seed and gave us confidence, so that when almost like the right business opportunity came along, the one that really sparked, we already had a bit of that background there, so I don't think it was probably quite as daunting, the thought of doing it as well. So that I think contributed to it too.
Right, excellent.
I would say, in terms of why starting a business, my answer is probably quite short, is that I'm a bit of a control freak and I like things to be a certain way. So working for myself is the best way to have control over all of those things. So in terms of just the business part, that's probably why that. But I mean, why specifically the business that we have and the shop that we have and stuff is just filling the need that was there, and the demand, and trying to meet the demand that was there, and the fact that we had that same demand. So it was kind of, we wanted a shop where we could get those things in a certain way, and it wasn't here yet, and they exist elsewhere. So obviously that's a great source of, you know, a great source of information and like advice and so on in other shops. There was one when we first started, the one in Birmingham, which is quite a big shop there. The Clean Kilo was just opening, and you know, all of those things were really useful. But yeah, starting, yeah, it was mainly just to meet a need. But yeah.
Yeah, Charlie. Oh,
no, you go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in a way, echoing what Alex just said, not having to be beholden to anyone else in a way, having been in universities, having worked in the charity sector for local authorities, for other businesses, it's really about having that independence and being able to make the decisions that matter independently, and not being told you can't do that because you're the one who is the boss. But also in terms of what I'm doing right now, my ultimate goal is to make documentaries, environmental ones, social ones, and a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is educational. So for local authorities, for charities, for businesses, and so in a way it's also a means to an end, to one day being nominated for a BAFTA for a great documentary about ethical or environmental issues. So there you go, it's public. I can't believe I've actually said that, but there we go.
The next Cowspiracy.
Derek?
I've actually been in business for myself since 1986, so I'm a bit old and long in the tooth for running businesses. And apart from a short foray into the corporate world with NTL Cable, as it was at the time, and having a whole channel of salespeople doing concession stands underneath me, and the responsibility for about 480 staff. My preference has always been in the technological sustainable future sort of technologies. And when the Night of the Long Knives came out and NTL was broken up and sold off, it was a matter of what can I do to sustain my future? What can I do that is of benefit rather than just the greed side of things, which I saw a lot of? And what could I do to actually almost give back? You know, what could I do to benefit people? And when you know, these sorts of technologies were coming to the fore, it was very much a case of, look, we need to do something, and we need to do something yesterday. So, you know, why shouldn't I be involved and push myself in this direction and look to see where I can give back a little bit? And that's pretty much where I am now with the air purification, and, you know, with helping businesses to go green, helping them find the funding. It's very much a bit of a mission now where, you know, I'm not that far off retiring. I'd like to be able to say, yeah, I did something. That was my driver.
Not better driver at all. Yeah, fantastic. If we stay on the business side still, rather than moving to green business, although it might get into your answers as well. How would you define business success? I mean, people define it in various ways. Obviously, some people want profit. Some, like they already mentioned, that it's about, well, legacy and leaving something behind. Or is it, yeah, freedom and opportunities to be creative in some ways? So creativity is not only about artistic creativity. So how would you define your business success? How would you know that you as a business people are successful?
I would say similar to what Derek was saying, is having an impact, making a difference. Like, the business part of, I've always think of the business side as it has to be successful. It has to sustain itself. Like, it has to pay me a living, and it has to you know, earn enough to keep buying more stuff and so on. But ultimately, yeah, it exists mainly for the purpose of it, for the, I guess, the promotion of the values and the things that are there, but then also meeting the need and trying to provide a more sustainable way to do things, to consume, I guess. So as long as it does that and can keep going doing that, and I guess, like, there's always more and more to do. That, I mean, there's by no way, this is why I sort of am not massively keen on the term like zero waste shop, because there's still waste. There is still waste. Like, it needs to be more and more. There's, you know, you go further back in the supply chain, there's still, you know, pallet wrapping and all things like that. Like, that's still really common and really normal. So, you know, other than sort of sustaining itself and being able to provide things in the as best a way as possible, as far as we can see, I guess the bit that I feel like we haven't quite got to yet is the trying to innovate a bit more, or put pressure on suppliers and so on to kind of change things, or just provide other options, which there are things out there, you know, whether it's, for example, with pallet wrap, you know, things that are bioplastics or whatever. I guess there are reasons why things are still where they are, but it's kind of, you know, it's gradually getting better. For example, we see with like fresh produce, we're getting more and more things that, you know, where they're trying out cellulose wrap things again, as opposed to how they've done it for a long time and so on. So there are more options becoming available. Sorry, slightly rambling a bit, and I've lost all track of where I started, but yeah, that for me is
Absolutely great.
that's it.
Charlie?
I think for me it's about bringing value. If you are in business, obviously you have to give people enough value that they give you enough cash to carry on, enough cash to pay the mortgage. I'm certainly not in it to become a millionaire, although if anyone wants to pay me £1 million to make a film, I'm in. But it is about the value you get, and you can't ignore that, but that has to be balanced by the value you give to your clients, but also to the wider world.
Shall we go?
Yeah, Claire, Nicola, yeah.
So again, echoing what's already been said, and we don't take the words lightly, but yes, absolutely, business success for us is around making a difference, both to our customers. We go out quite a bit and speak to various different groups, so using our position to have people listen to what we have to say and just helping people realise what the real issues are there and encouraging them to then do something about it. So that's success to us. It would be lovely to be raking in the money, but I'm not sure that will ever happen. And also we don't, so we reusable is kind of something we do together, but we also have quite large other things going on in our life. So Nicola works full-time elsewhere, and I have quite a demanding family, including a little girl with additional needs and a guide dog mum who's currently around our feet. So if you do see Nicola and I doing this quite a bit, we have, so I do a lot of volunteering for guide dogs. So our sort of corporate motto is such as what we can when we can. You know, there are some weeks where we are on it with the online stuff and the accounts are up to date and we just, you know, and more often than not, we are chasing our own tail and seeing who can run about putting an order out in between school runs and something else. So yeah, so making a difference where we can and being happy when we do make an impact anywhere. So same message we give to the people that kindly buy our things is don't be hard on yourself. Do what you can when you can. The problem can feel so massive that you would just hide in a corner and do nothing, but it's just having little impacts where possible.
One of the reasons we started the business as well, we've spoken about it before, was our own realisation, because we thought we were conscientious, we thought we were doing the right thing, we recycled all our plastic, we thought we were doing everything okay, and when almost like the penny dropped for us, we started our journey of going out, finding the best alternatives, researching that. So one of the things for business for us is helping people on the journey that we've already been on, so we can almost share our experience and empathise with being there. And that is one of the best feelings, is when especially when we were allowed to be out and about, and hopefully we will be again, when people could really try the different cups or bottles and get one that really suited and was right. And then when they do get in touch with us and say, absolutely love using our cup or our bottle, that is just the best feeling in the world, and it feels like we're really helping on that journey as well.
Yeah, because that's when people will make that change in their life. You know, everyone's busy. If things become difficult, or you know, it's a hassle to do things, they won't do it. And I think sometimes when you're working in this space, you start to take for granted that, oh, everybody knows that, everybody's doing this already. But just last night we were speaking to a group of ladies from a local WI group on this kind of format, and one of them came back and said, oh, I had no idea that plastic could only be recycled like a handful of times. And just little things like that it's again somebody who thought they were doing the right thing with their red boxes and their white bags and getting it all together and just sort of getting that information out there. Now we're rambling, sorry.
No, it's perfect. But yeah, you're so right. It's when you are in this bubble, you think that everyone knows and everything is doing it, but in reality, it might not be the case just yet. Derek and Avnash, I mean, would you want to join in and share your experience, because obviously your businesses have been there for a long time. What's business success, you know, from the perspective of years?
Well, I think from my point of view, the greater successes are the most recent successes, because with pricings now the way that they are, with the support that there is, it means that slightly larger schemes can be accommodated, which gives a greater benefit all round in terms of not only guaranteeing electricity supply and cutting down on reliance on the grid, but also the carbon offset that leads to. A recent one is producing half of the electricity for its facility. And is saving, I think it's 69 tons of carbon a year, just as an offset there. You know, and this is a medium-sized shared office co-working space facility, and the roof space was doing nothing other than being roof space. And all of a sudden they've got something that will repay itself in less than 5 years, is a tax write-off on their first tax return. And, you know, they are determined to go as green as possible, and we've helped and facilitated it. So that's what I measure as success, when both sides of the process are extremely happy with the end result.
I think Derek's right there. What is success? How do you measure success? You can't really do it. I think when my customer's really happy, I can smile, and that's my success. What I call a real pleasuring job for myself is, for example, I did a barn conversion. I did the east wing in Old Milverton, the oldest house in Old Milverton, what, 7-8 years ago, and I did the south wing and west wing 2 years ago. The whole house now is self-sufficient. It's got a ground source, air source, solar panel, solar thermal. It's all 500-600 mil solid brick walls. We've internally studied it. We've put 200 mil of insulation in the walls, put A+ rated glass everywhere. And that's a house now that get less than £20 a year bills. To me, that's a successful project. That's been really efficient.
It's about taking on a problem that somebody has, that a business has, and finding the solution for it.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
sorry. Yeah. And on the way to this kind of solution, on the way to making customers happy, to spreading the message, what are the challenges?
Challenges, I think, from my side of things, is the general lack of information that people have on exactly what is out there that could benefit them. It's just public awareness. You know, from dealing with the renewable energies alone, it's very much a case, people don't know about these tax breaks. They don't know that actually they're going to be paid to have the solar panels and those systems. Any business that spends more than £100,000 can claim 130% of that against their next tax bill. So, you know, you spend 100,001 pounds on a solar panel system, you get £130,000 tax write-off against it. You know, what are you going to do with your 30,000 free pounds?
So it's information and sharing.
Yeah, it's information. It's just getting the word out there.
Is it the same in other industries? What would be your challenges? What are the challenges in doing business? Or
is that for me?
One of the challenges we've found, and it's very much getting better, I think very recently we've found it's got better, but one of our challenges, I guess, is in our supply chain when we were sourcing products. So we really took our time when we were sourcing everything to make sure that it ticked all the boxes we wanted it to tick. But an example like Claire gave last night, we still got a product in that was great, but each individual product was still in a single-use plastic bag. So we still have those things, but it's just not all joined up. And yet, so we go back and we challenge back and just let them know. And it's great to see it then change and come through and that packaging change. But certainly that was a challenge for us. Like I say, it's getting better now, but yeah, that's kind of the start it was.
And just knowing, again, on the supplier side, knowing that what we are purchasing really has been responsibly sourced, has been ethically manufactured. I mean, to what degree can we go as a really small business to know for sure? I mean, I think a lot of it comes to getting a feel for the people you're working with and just having a kind of holistic view on it, because you can ask for certifications and all those things, but people could be sending me anything, to be fair. You know, they could knock something up on Canva and send it to me, and would I really know that it was valid? I wouldn't. So it's just trying to ask enough questions, but then not sort of crippling yourself. You would never do anything because you go, well, what exactly is that like, and where is that made, and what are the conditions like? You know, it's trying to get enough of a feeling of comfort that I think this is a good product. It does what it says it will do, and it has been ethically sourced, to then take that forward and put our name to it, rather than just you would hide away and do nothing because you continually be uncertain.
And some of the challenges, the positive, we're finding so many more fantastic eco-friendly products being manufactured here, and we've just sourced one and got one, which is really innovative. It's one of the first kind of combined cup bottles, again, UK company, so we do try as best we can to source locally as well. So yeah, and again, a lot more of those.
Got sort of adjacent or similar things in that I guess the biggest challenge I find is like, it's the same thing really, is like research and trying to establish like what is the best option for a particular thing. Like you want to supply something or get something that does a particular job, but there are a million different options, a million different factors. I guess like anything really, there's so many factors to always consider. When it's food, it's, you know, it's like, where is it grown? What was it grown using? How are people paid? How does it get here? All of those things. What's it put into? Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we had was one of the things at the moment is wanting to supply. It's quite a niche problem, but you know, it's just an example of like supplying oat milk. At the moment, you know, Tetra Pak is probably like definitely the biggest way, and there's disadvantages to that, like the percentage back from recycling and so on. And then there are other options. So one we found, there was a farm in Sussex that were doing dispensers, so they'd grow the oats themselves. I mean, again, that's the other thing. A lot of the bigger brands tend to be oats from elsewhere, but they had UK oats. Sorry, this is quite a boring example because it was just mainly about oat milk. But so it's just as an example. So and they would do a dispenser. They would either ship glass bottles, so you know that's fine, or one of the more popular ways is a bag-in-box like dispenser, which, you know, again, it does seem better, but then you have to weigh up that versus there are companies that do deliveries of glass bottles. You know, I guess it's trying to establish the percentage of those that get reused and go back, or the amount of those that just get recycled. Because ultimately the bag-in-box thing, even if the bags are recycled, which a couple of the companies say they can be, that's sort of, you know, diminishing returns from that as well. So and I guess, yeah, what we found hard is sometimes if there's not an option that seems great, is being like, well, do we not stock that at all? And a lot of the time we just not stock things, and that's also difficult because that demand for those things is still going to kind of be there. So I guess actually even like bananas, you know, you say, well, we eat tons of bananas in the country. Yeah, they come from a long way away. So as long as we do, I guess it's ticking off the best possible option. So, you know, at least tick off the getting here the best way, growing the best way, people paid fairly, workers paid fairly, for all of those options. Sorry, the last thing is sort of something that is kind of a success, but then it's a good example of the challenges that coffee is a really difficult thing unless you've got a local roaster. Even then it's kind of difficult because storing large quantities of it, like majority of the time they're in sort of CO2 sealed bags, which have a few different layers of material, and some of those are not recyclable. So that, like you'd see in supermarkets everywhere and coffee shops. So one thing we found, we went to, and it's kind of someone else, this is an example of someone else solving a problem, not us really, but we went to some roasters and asked, is there another way to like get it? And one that we found in Market Harbour was like, oh, we found these containers, reusable. They are plastic but reusable, so we send them back between us, and they've got a little valve that pushes the air out. So that's just like a brilliant solution. So it's kind of similar to what Derek was saying, is like finding the stuff is out there, like those containers exist already somewhere. It was just a case of, well, in this case, not us doing it, but someone else then finding them and using them for coffee and for the right purpose. The stuff exists. It's just like, yeah, getting everyone to line it up, and yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, the challenges are having the business at the moment being fairly young and just trying to grow it, and trying to find enough hours in the day, really. But also in terms of trying to be a more ethical business, trying to be a greener business, trying to find information that you can actually trust, is actually really tricky, and it seems to be that people like local authorities tend to aim a lot of their advice towards SMEs, but not a lot towards really small businesses or to consumers. So trying to find the best sources of information, I have to say I'm finding quite tricky.
Yeah, good point. That's right. All right. So shall we perhaps open the floor to the questions in the chat, because it seems like we have quite a few of them there, and I'm particularly excited to ask them then on all of your behalf. So if we start, what was it? Oh yes. So there's a question from Jonathan. So when we talked about the reasons why you started businesses, Alex and Charlie mentioned that direct control over what you do was a key factor about running your own business. So is it an important factor for the rest of you? So would you like to explain here?
Yeah, absolutely. having been in an office for sort of 5 or 6 years, it just drove me crazy. You know, to have control over your own gut instinct and your own personal vision of what you want to do is extremely important. And that's why we have so many entrepreneurs over here. You know, the fact is that if you're personally driven with a passion for a particular subject, that you can't do that by committee. You can't, you know, you do it for yourself.
Right. Abnash or?
Yeah, so I would say yes.
Nicola, yeah.
Controls are definitely a good word for it, and for myself certainly it's to do with flexibility. Yeah. So it's been able to do something that I've got passion for, but know that, like I said, we can do it what we can when we can. So we will probably, the business will probably never be as profitable or as successful or as impactful as it could be, but it enables us to work in an area that we've really got passion for, and to be able to pick it up and put it down when the rest of the world changes around us, and not have that feeling of guilt, the letting someone else down. We are, you know, I often feel like I'm
yeah, we do.
But I think, you know, whenever the one word that's not allowed and reusable is sorry. You know, it's like, oh, sorry, I haven't.
Doesn't stop us using it, but yeah.
that word isn't allowed. So that makes it certainly a huge difference to me, rather than, as you've all said before, you know, working in an organisation where you're constantly feeling like, oh, I need to do that, and I'm under the cosh of someone else to get it done. And sometimes the other aspects of my life just don't allow that to happen. So it's that sort of control or flexibility that definitely makes a big difference to us. Yeah.
Abnash, would you like to add anything at this stage?
Yeah, I always say to anyone who wants to become self-employed or runs a business, it's never greener on the other side. Everyone here will say there's a lot of hard work that goes in the backgrounds. You know, you don't work 9 till 5. Unfortunately, you work 6 till 10 some days. And then Sunday nights, you're thinking about, oh crap, where do my workers go? I've got to organise this, organise that. So it's never as good as it sounds. But there's a positive side of it as well. You know, there's lots of perks to it. You can have days off when you want to have it. You can go off and see your kids play. Don't have to prove yourself to anyone. And now when I go on holiday, I just turn my phone off. So, you know, there's pros and cons to anything, but I'll tell everyone it's harder work, but it's more rewarding.
Yeah. So whatever works for you individually.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. So the next question is from Ian, and he says that particularly for Alex, and I think Alex and Avnash have already responded part of things on the chat, but everyone else as well. Do you think that big guys, supermarkets, or your competitors in your industry, are taking over your niche? And if they do, is it a good thing or bad thing?
Can I pause there for a second? I sort of half answered a question. I spent a lot of money and did a part-time MBA at Warwick University, and there's only one thing I've learned from it, which has changed my whole view in the way I support businesses. You go and spend £100 at Asda, that gets recycled back into Leamington 3.5 times. You go and spend £100 at Alex Daniels' shop down the road, that'll get recycled back into Leamington 12.5 times. So spending that money at independent shop means they're paying local painters, they're buying local shops, they're going to a local coffee shop, the coffee shop's using a local electrician. It's all recycled back into the community. Yeah. If those shops aren't there, the growth of the businesses won't grow. And we're really, really lucky where we live, because Leamington and Warwick have got a hell of a lot of independents. And the independents are growing when you compare them to cities. Cities are shrinking, towns are growing.
Yeah.
And that's why I'll always spend 10p more at a coffee shop than I will at a Costa.
That's very, very good numbers. Yeah, actually.
I didn't learn anything else than the 35 grand I spent at the MBA.
You share with us as well. Thank you. All right. So, any other comments on this? Is it good or bad that big guys come? And
I guess I would say that yeah, like I think I said in the chat, that I mean, it's like with what we do, it's definitely inevitable that supermarkets will, because like from when we started 3 years ago at markets to now, like the number of shops that have opened since then, similarly, like most towns have a similar shop. Like there are 2 here in Leamington, one in Warwick, one in Stratford, one in Coventry, all since, in those few years. So obviously supermarkets are going to have noticed, supermarkets noticed that. Actually, it was a thing my mum pointed out. There was something like an advert for Mercedes, I think it was a car advert, but there was like a small clip of someone pulling a dispenser handle, like to get some cereal or something. So this thing is like very common now. So supermarkets have been trialing, like Tesco, Asda, I think Waitrose have all done trials in particular stores of refilling and so on. So that is, I would guess, I assume that is going to keep going that way. So I mean, I think ideally I'd rather they didn't exist, and that that this became more dominant way of shopping. And I think it will. Maybe it's a really long-term trend where this kind of shopping and shopping locally, which for the reasons Avnash said, like, is so much more important. Ideally, that's where it goes. I do think at the moment, in terms of them encroaching, I guess, upon what has been a bit of a niche of refilling and so on, it's a good thing, because if they don't do it, and that's still the majority, which it is, like, of how the way that people shop, at least if people are going there and shopping in a more sustainable way because they're able to refill, that is still better. Like, it's all pushing towards the same goal of reducing the amount of packaging, or, well, yeah, I guess that would be the main thing, packaging. I mean, every time I think about supermarkets and how they are doing the refill thing more, I just hope that people also question about what the product is, not just how it's packaged, because obviously that's it's always more than that. It's always all of those aspects. Yeah, anyway.
Thank you.
I didn't think that it generally is a good thing if greener products and a greener way of life does go mainstream. But there will always be businesses, like many of the businesses here, that continue to push the boundaries. And so even if larger businesses do play an increasing part, I think that there will always be the entrepreneurs who are doing something even more progressive. So I don't think there's really a worry there. I do think these things going mainstream is generally a good thing, as long as it's not just greenwashed.
Mm-hmm. I think also one of the good things about having big players active in various different spheres is very often when they try and get involved in something, what it actually does is expose a very nice niche market for other businesses to occupy.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm really torn on this question, because I think there can be positives and negatives. I think one of the positives of, you know, going into Sainsbury's or one of the supermarkets and suddenly seeing loads of different reusable options in there, in some ways it's great because of the accessibility and the visibility of it. So people can go in there and they can get those ideas by looking at and seeing what the alternatives are. The fact that it can be a positive if it drives down the price. Obviously, the large supermarkets are going to be able to sell things at a lot cheaper than we can at the margins we're able to buy for. And that also strikes a chord with me, because I'm very conscious that to really make a difference, you know, everyone has to be trying to live more sustainably. And for a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of people in this area, you know, going out and spending £11 on a reusable coffee cup, or getting your kids, you know, reusable sandwich bags for school isn't really something they have to think about. But there are an awful lot of people to whom that's a spend that they just can't even think about making. So if the bigger players can help reduce the cost, then good. But if that quality and real reusability can stay there, because then there is the negative side of it, where things look like some of the products we sell, but the quality's not there. So you end up with things that aren't reused the amount of times they should be, or that they do fall apart, and then people lose faith in it. And again, they move away from it. So I think it can, yeah, there can be advantages and disadvantages of those larger players coming into our area specifically.
Okay, so that's about big businesses and their impact on things. But there is another question which I think is related to it from Ian, saying what simple and realistic change should government do to promote sustainable businesses? So here we have another player. What can the government do?
Well, I have a very simple requirement of the government in that respect, and that is sort something out with the planning regulations. You know, because, you know, I'm sure Avnash will agree with me. When you're building a new property, the planning requirements for you to have a more renewable conscious property are such that you only really need to put just one extra technology in there, apart from the cavity filling and the loft space being insulated. You know, they are now putting in the requirements for the heat pumps and that sort of thing ongoing, because of the way that the regulations stopping the gas supply being fitted to new builds. But, you know, when you're talking about raising the energy performance certificate of a property, one of the easiest things is putting solar panels on there, even if it's just 2 or 3 panels, even if it's just a 1 kilowatt system. That creates more sustainability in the house, raises the EPC value. But the government will not put a firm line down to say it will happen. They only say, oh, well, we'll leave it up to you as long as you do something. And they just need to be firmer with that, because so much land is land banked with initial planning permissions on it that don't need the new regulations applying to it, that by the time they've actually made this hard and fast, we're still going to be waiting 10 or 12 years before those properties are built. So they need to get a grip of it now.
There's a couple of problems there. So about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, and sorry for changing the subject a little bit, Warwick District Council, I do a lot of work for Warwick District Council on the windows. So they invited me in to talk about renewables because they knew I got into it heavily. I had to educate their building control officers what technologies what.
Yeah.
They then paid me to go and do some inspections. people are putting panels on the roof and we're connecting them to tick a box.
Yeah.
And then the government's changed the rules, so every house extension, which is 10% bigger than the house, has to be 10% renewable. There's lots of loopholes around that, so you don't have to put technologies on them.
Yeah.
And that's what builders have found out. Now,
Just
even though there's requirements to put, say, PV on a roof, building control aren't checking it, and they're actually signing the certificates off. So it's a massive educational purpose here. It's not being fed down the systems properly. So you can only be efficient or green if it's being enforced properly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a big area, I think, of building, and I'm sure Ian would be able to add more things on it. But in other industries, is there anything the government can do to support you, to encourage more people to do what you do?
I don't know how easy it is to open a new retail business at the moment, but if there were incentives to open a greener business, I think that would be a very good thing.
I think from our perspective, not perhaps to help our business directly, but in terms of tackling the issue that we're trying to tackle, I think it comes down to the whole producer pays issue again. You know, stopping a lot of these companies who are kicking out single-use plastic from doing so by hitting them where it hurts, and that's by making sure that they're involved in the cleanup of it, which really isn't happening.
Yeah, I would say pretty much same. It's kind of the same along the same lines. Like, yeah, it's interesting that some things became a huge, you know, like the like plastic straws and thing became such a massive issue, and banning certain things like that. But we go a lot further. Like, I hate to go back to pallet wrap, but I think the number of pallets that are moving around the country all the time, each getting, you know, wrapped at every stage. And I even remember Warwick Market, and I mean, that's different because, you know, fruit and veg there and things. And upon leaving, you know, whatever's left, going back on a pallet, around with pallet wrap, and it's like just banning those. Well, either restricting the use of those things or subsidizing the alternatives that are better. I don't know how that would work. I have no idea how that would work, but there's got to be some way of promoting those things.
So essentially, it seems like it's all about government being more active in what they're doing, not just
do their jobs better.
Talking,
Yeah.
Right. But then, of course, there's another player, and that's what Anu reminds us about on her question. Should the green newsletter be advertising and writing up about green businesses? I'm not sure it's the question to the panelists. I'm sure there will be somebody who can answer it. So should, I mean, I would probably reword it in the sense that what organizations other than businesses or other than government, what us as individuals or what us as organizations, be it political parties or not-for-profits, what can we all do? And I'll open this question up to everyone, really, whoever would want to step in at this stage. Do remember to unmute yourself, yes, if you want to speak.
Yes, I am quite interested in a wider knowledge of locally of green businesses. I am in education. I am actually working now in a sector to direct our young graduates into new jobs, new careers, and I would love to direct them to businesses that care for sustainability. So I really don't know where to start, where to find the pool of local businesses that are doing this type of work. So it would be very useful to have a way of getting this information across. Because one thing that has been raising is the education. Education can start, you know, at every point, from education, from, you know, schools, but especially our young graduates, they're full of new ideas. And if we could, I mean, our program actually gets them to spend time with employers. And if, you know, if out there are the right employers that can collaborate with us and we send our students, that's a way of educating the new new generation. Any comments, please? Any suggestions?
Are there any kind of green business networks around at all? I don't know.
There's quite a bit going on through Coventry and the Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce, their sites, but in particular the sort of the connections in and around the university hub that they have. You perhaps, Charlie, particularly, you'll know Marie Stevenson. Mm-hmm. She's always a good point of contact, but there is also a lady called Denise Osborne, that you'll find is posting an awful lot about the green tech in and around the Warwickshire, Coventry and Warwickshire areas.
Yes.
So lots of forums coming out of that.
Yeah. I am actually making videos for her about some of the projects, the green projects she's been instrumental in helping to fund. But I do know she has the green business program, but I don't actually know who else is in that program, and I don't know if any of the other speakers here are aware of it or are in any other groups who maybe share information and resources or not.
Well, you've got the LEPs, the LEPs, the local enterprise partnerships as well, if that's relevant. But most of it, you know, is just look up renewables, you know, in LinkedIn groups and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm just aware of time now. It is 8:30 and somehow time has flown really. So I'll probably, I hope I didn't miss any questions in the chat, but I will ask one question, which will hopefully get us all thinking whether we want to start business or whether we want to support a small business, or whether we know somebody who is thinking about it. If, I mean, each of our speakers could suggest just a piece of advice, just one piece of advice for people who want to make their business greener, what would it be? Where would they start? And then maybe all of us can then share these recommendations, these suggestions widely. That might make our world a bit better.
Through lockdown, we've actually changed massively in the way we do quotes. So lockdown's kind of a good thing for us in the horriblest way. Before COVID, we used to spend probably a good part of 8-9 hours a week going to people's houses doing quotes, and out of that, you'd probably only win 60% of the work. So it's 4 to 5 hour wasted hours, travel, petrol, you know, wear and tear on tires and things like that. You just haven't got the time. Days getting busier and busier. COVID's made us do desktop quotes. So customers are phoning us up and we're saying, well, we can't come out with COVID. Following government guidelines, can you send us a photo of your house, sizes, and we do a desktop quote? And then when we're winning the jobs, they're then saying, can you change the design like this and this? And we're doing it all before we go out and see the customer. So we've done the exercise, and that is making us be greener, more efficient, and we're actually getting more personal life time. So it's good.
Win-win-win. All right.
And customers don't want us in the houses, so it's even better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the advice that I would have is just have a look at everything you spend money on, because if you're spending money on things, you're usually spending the Earth's resources somehow. So try to look at greener alternatives, or just use less. I mean, I have to admit, I got rather a shock a couple of years ago when I had a look at my carbon footprint, and I thought I was reasonably green. I mean, drive an electric car, I've been a vegetarian for 25 years and all of that. But because of my job doing video production, purely because of the amount I spend on electronic equipment, it looked as though my carbon impact was worse than the average person. So that completely changed how I purchase. I always try to purchase secondhand if I can. I try to think about every equipment purchase, whether I really need it. Could I possibly hire it instead of buying it? So it's analysing everything that I buy to have a look at, are there any other alternatives?
Thank you. Very good advice indeed. Who would like to go next? Alex?
Okay. Mine sounds probably quite fluffy as advice, and it's probably something silly to say to everyone here, because you obviously do care, but mine would be care, but then also, I guess, just be transparent. Like, I think one thing, well, it sounds a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit too much looking at the human mind, but we appreciate when we see passion and thought, and that someone feels strongly about something. I think people respond to that. So, and assuming that anyone who wants to start any kind of business cares about the thing in the first place, and if it's a sustainable business or a green business and you want it to have those values, then you obviously do care. So just showing people that and being honest and open about whether it's like pricing, or why something has the value that it has, and I guess that, like, I guess doing the research kind of adds to that. But then if you do care, you do the research, that you look into the things that matter, and sharing that information with people. I think that's the other thing, is none of that stuff should be something that you then, I guess it's probably slightly different with technology and things like that, but you know, when it comes to, I don't know, how something is, what's used to grow a certain crop or whatever, like, that's something that if we're not transparent about is a problem. And if the people who are in the middle, which we're mainly a middleman, like, we sort of get things from places and then pass them on to other people, but you know, our main job is actually choosing which things to pass along, I guess. So so we have to want to be completely transparent, and that's part of also the educational or sort of information and then learning and growing aspect, is like, we all want to know those things. There's like as much as possible, and probably more than people want. I tell people about things when they want, you know, a certain thing. If it's like, oh, I want some salt, and then I'll tell them about where the salt comes from. It's from Droitwich, all of this stuff, and it's like, but like those things, not everybody wants to know that, and that's fine. Not everybody needs to know that, but it's I don't know, it's something I think we probably should care about more. So, and hopefully that, anyway, so I went off topic again, but
Okay. Gary. Okay. Derek, would you like to?
Yeah, I think it sounds very, very obvious, but you know, just ask someone who's prepared to give you an honest and upfront opinion without trying to sell at you. You know, I'm always very happy to just give benefit of advice to people whether there is any intention whatsoever of an eventual purchase or not. You know, I come on to things like this quite happily. I give anybody the benefit of experience, and it all starts with listening to identify what problems people have and what they want to achieve, and then, as I said before, finding the solution to it. And unless you find someone, hopefully like myself, that's going to just tell it like it is and tell you if it's worth it, and also not be afraid to say, no, it's not viable for you. You know, just to give honest, open and free advice.
Good point. And Claire, Nicola, would you like to share some wisdom?
A lot of just similar to what the other speakers have said. Thinking about starting own business. One of the biggest things I think I don't know about Claire, but for me is that people just really want to know the face behind the business. People are crying out for that now, I think, rather than corporates and things. And I would, I guess, quite happily not be. I had to really put myself out there. But I've really enjoyed doing it, meeting people and doing it as well. And yeah, people really resonate and respond to that. So if you are thinking about starting a business, it's don't let that put you off. But yeah, just really show yourself, like we said, explain what your passion is, why you're doing the business and what you do. Yeah, I think that would work.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, very inspiring. I think Ian might have one more question, which he's really keen to ask. So, Ian.
Yes, thank you, Ignati, and thanks everyone for your passion and interest in coming along. I've been firing most of the questions at you, so apologies for that. This one's rather rambly, which is why I couldn't put pen to paper. You've all talked about almost a sense of passion and trying to get these things going. And it's partly your business, but it's broader than that. And it's partly community. And you all said lots about community and local and connections and things, as well as a sustainable area. And it's whether you've thought about and how that can be promoted more generally, other than giving up your Wednesday evenings and coming along to things like this. And I was thinking like loyalty cards or a joint something site or something like that. I'm sure you've thought about these things as well, and you've probably done it far better than me. So it's whether there is almost a green business movement or something like that, and does it join up in any way, and is there any way of promoting it a bit more? I think Anu's been saying things on the chat a bit, so I hope that kind of adds up to something like a question. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ian. So, yeah, can there be a green business association, green business chamber of commerce?
Yeah, it's not something I thought about a lot before. I don't know, we're being fairly new to it. It's not something, but it's funny that it's not something I'd actually looked for. It's not something I'd looked to see if it had existed already. Maybe I assumed partly that it didn't. It's definitely something that, I don't know, maybe there's something in certain sectors. I don't know about for some of the other guys, if there's some organization more nationally where it's, you know, more sustainable building or something, I don't know, but it would be great to have something locally, whether it was just within the county of a registry or something. I don't know how that would work, but I'd be very keen if someone was willing to help try and set that up, to be involved. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I tried to set up a Facebook and Nextdoor group for Green Warwickshire, so with the idea of promoting businesses. But I mean, I haven't gone too far with time commitments. But I set up this group, so perhaps they might be a good starting point of introducing all of you guys, and then some others. So yeah, Green Living Warwickshire. That's what it's called on Facebook and on Nextdoor. So if you want to join in and yeah, start promoting yourself, and then when I have more time, I'll perhaps start to register as well. And in a sense, that's what Louisa now says in the chart as well, that we should say there were green business initiatives in the area were more visible because Louisa says that she had to join a London-based clean tech meetup group because there was nothing in our part of the world. So let's see what can be done meeting-wise or registry-wise. But in the meantime, I think we can all here do our bit and support local businesses like the ones who gave up their evening tonight. Thank you very much for it. I think that it was a very interesting discussion and different angles to it. Because you all come from different backgrounds. You all are different sizes, different age, age of your businesses, and be it full-time or part-time. It's just amazing how different businesses are when we talk about it. So it was great to have you. Thank you so much for it. And we hope we will continue this conversation. And as Jonathan put in the chat, if you guys have anything kind of newsy way of happening in your business, do send it to the local Green Party, and we'll happily talk about it on our social media and newsletter. So do stay in touch with us, and we'll ensure that we stay in touch with you. And in terms of engage events, so that was our late but first event of this year. The next event is on 15th of September. Again, it's Wednesday at 7:30 as usual, and we'll talk about biodiversity and local action. And then the event after it is on November the 17th. Again, it's Wednesday and it is 7:30, and we'll talk about health and well-being. So 2 more engage events this year. We don't know yet whether they will be online or whether we will be able to meet in person or some sort of hybrid. So we'll probably just announce it near the time, but put this into your calendar, 15th of September and 17th of November. Thank you, everyone. And do get outside now. I mean, the sun is still there, and enjoy a bit of fresh air if you could. Thank you very much, speakers and guests, and see you.
Thank you.
To our next future events.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.